Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Business Owner Spotlight Series. We are happy to be here today with Mrs. Janis Miller. She is the owner of Jantastic Productions and is the host of the podcast, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? We are happy to have you today. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. We're experimenting, and I'm delighted that you all found me. I don't know how you found me, but I'm glad you found me so we can have this conversation.
Okay. So let's go ahead and start out with just tell me a little bit about Jantastic Productions.
Jantastic Productions is a production company. I write and produce musicals.
Okay.
I've done a series of musical reviews that were launched in Deauville, France, in Las Vegas, and I've done several here at the Kentucky Center for the Performing Arts in Louisville. I am an international jazz singer, and so I've taken my talents to another level as far as the writing and creating of these musical productions, and I do musical theme events. So that's what Jantastic Productions does. And I'm also the host of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which is a conversation with social and criminal justice and racism, all of those elements in a pot that we can talk about the things that are going on in our daily lives.
How long have you been leading that podcast?
I've had the podcast since 2020 when the social injustice came up, when all the protests were going on and the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd made me say it was time for us to have a conversation about racism.
Okay. And are you currently still producing music and musicals?
Well, I'm always in a writing mode. Since COVID, I haven't produced any musicals. I haven't launched any musicals. That's a pretty extensive situation to launch a musical. It would probably take anywhere from 6 months to a year to prepare and put it on stage. So I haven't ventured into that. I have one, the very first one that I produced is the one that's my baby that I'm looking to one day have in one of the showrooms in Las Vegas.
And what is that?
It's called French Kiss. I produced it for the 50th anniversary of D-Day in Paris. I actually did it in the Deauville region where they landed on the beaches of Normandy.
Is there a place that we can go to listen to some of your work?
Some of my work I have posted on my YouTube channel, Jantastic Productions.
Okay.
That's my YouTube channel. I have clips from the musicals and my own individual performances as well.
What have been some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome with your business and personal life?
Well, moving into this media realm, this technology of streaming, learning how to make that work for my company, especially during COVID, because that was the only way that I could reach people. So it was, to me, a very useful tool to have during that time because it still connected me to people. I still stayed connected.
So basically your biggest challenge has been operating the new digital realm.
Yeah, to find out what programs work, just like we're working on on 2 platforms. We're on Zoom,
Yep.
and I'm recording us on StreamYard. StreamYard has helped me because it gave me a screen that I could have 1, 2, 3, or 4 guests on at the same time. I could invite people. I have a trailer that comes on before my show that introduces the show. And at the end, I have a closer that takes me out of the show with a billboard that is stationary at the end of the closer until the live version cuts off. Sometimes the computer moves and some of the writing on the screen is not on the screen. Sometimes if it gets too big and I can't pull it back. I've had technical issues that I'm still working on, working out those kinks, but looking to expand my social media presence. I have my own Roku channel. I do Roku, YouTube, Facebook. I will share a link with LinkedIn. I need to use Instagram more. I need to use TikTok more, shockingly, but I think TikTok would have more people that could become engaged if I go after them.
Yeah, I think the resources that we have today to reach a wider audience has never occurred before. It's just incredible how much access we have, but also how hard it is to gain an initial following. So when you're trying to start an online platform, it can be a hard process in the beginning.
It is. It's quite daunting. And me, I have to make sure I've got a guest every week. But that hasn't turned out to be so bad because most of the people that I invited accepted. I've had a really good run. Well, I've had 2 years full of guests from all spectrums of the community, politicians, CEOs of nonprofits, musicians, all different types of people, community activists. I've had candidates running for mayor. I've had the mayor. I've had senators, the state senator. It's been very interesting because I'm also still learning about a lot of what's going on in the community from them.
So what does the future look like for you? What do you think is going to be your main challenge moving forward for you?
Well, now it's just to finish getting my set design. For 2023, I'm looking to get closer to the initial concept of the production of the show, which was that I would be in person with my guest.
Yeah.
We would actually be having dinner. Yeah. And it would be filmed from a camera fed into the computer. And the chef would get exposure. I would be in a more personal space with my guest. And it would be a little bit more interactive, should I say. So I'm looking to have those things to come about. But that means I have to buy the cameras. I've got to learn how to use the cameras. I've got an idea of different chefs. I even thought about doing a DoorDash kind of thing that for like, I would send you a meal and you'd be having your meal while you're talking to me and I'd be having my meal. I like to promote small businesses. And I think that that would be a way to probably promote other businesses to have them become sponsors of my show.
So, you're a very interesting lady. We talked about how you lived in France for a bit, just have kind of a unique background. You performed in France and you've produced musicals over there. So what have been your biggest learnings in business and life?
Time management is really important. Focusing on the conversation, I try to have at least 3 phases, 3 different areas of the conversation. If I'm meeting somebody for the first time, I try to find out their story, who they are, how they got involved in whatever it is they're involved in, and if they have any aspect of what it is that they do that is helpful to the community, especially the African American community, because sometimes we don't get a lot of information that we need about a plethora of things that we need. One of those, for example, caregiving. Up until 2019, for about 6 years, I was my mother's caregiver. And it took me almost 2 years just to get the right people coming in to help me take care of her. And some of those things are not as available to the African American community because we just didn't have the information. And now that I know, those are the types of things I want to share. When I learned something about the difference between hospice and hospice that, my doctor kept saying, Janis, you need to call hospice. I thought she was saying hospice. And I kept saying, why is she telling me to call hospice? My mother's not getting ready to die, and she was telling me it's more for you than it is your mother. I was like, whoa. But I had only had an experience with hospice with my brother who passed in 2010. But hospice can be an ongoing service. You have a team, you have a social worker, a chaplain, a nurse, a home aide that comes to help do the bathing and things of that nature. You can get your medicines for free. They come in the mail. Whatever my mom needed, I didn't have to go to the pharmacy to get her medicine. It came in the mail. But this is through hospice. Who knew? I didn't.
So Janis, kind of based on that, you talked about information to minority communities. What advice would you give anyone thinking about going into business, especially a minority that's thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, opening their own business? What advice would you give them?
First, there's planning. It's like you might have a good idea, but you've got to try that idea. You've got to do a little trial and error went into this. Right before COVID kind of closed us down, I called myself doing a pilot for the show in my home. So I had two people, we had dinner, I had it filmed, and we had conversation. And I liked the feel of all of that, but it did not fit into what came about afterwards. So I had to pivot. So you got to plan, you got to see your vision, lay out your vision, how you're going to execute it. It's just not saying you want to do something and then think that you can go buy a few things, set up, and you're ready to go. You have to go get your name of your company. You've got to deal with your branding along the way. And you got to deal with your branding from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because as you grow, your branding is going to grow with you. I also made contact with the Small Business Association, different departments in the city government helped guide me along the way what I should do. I learned things about certifying your business, how people know who you are, as if you're on a list that people can find through, I guess it's the chamber or through the city, that you are a certified business. That means somebody has validated who you are.
Yep.
So they know that when they do business with you, that you're legitimate, that it's not a scam. And you have to be very careful of that nowadays. And you just have to really be conscious of your content and how you deliver the content. You can't half do things.
Well, hopefully you had as much fun as I did. We're getting close to the end here, but one thing I want to say is that it'd be really nice if the people viewing this video went to your YouTube channel. How do they reach it?
They just go to YouTube, and when they do the search, they type in Jantastic. That's fantastic with a J instead of an F.
Yep.
Jantastic Productions. And they'll see a signature. It looks like a signature. They can go back and look at all the interviews that I've done since 2020. And if they scroll all the way down to the very beginning or go back to the very beginning, they will see the entertainment section of my YouTube channel, which is me performing in some of the musical reviews and some of my single engagements as well.
Okay. Well, hopefully you get some subscribers out of this, and it was definitely a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.